therapeutic, it can be used externally or internally if you want to achieve a certain target, you want to achieve a certain purpose within your body. Again, too much astringent taste can induce fear and fright. And some of the examples of astringent foods are beans, potatoes, lettuce, dandelion, grass, plantain, broccoli, cauliflower. So again, there is an example. Once I was making soup, which was really hot, and I had put it in the blender, and it just burst out because it was so hot. And it came on my face and on my the skin on my upper part. And I just remembered about the potato, and I just cut a slice and I put it here. Although there were many spots, but I could only feel the burn more here. And later, when it had, when you have water in the boil, that means it's a more severe burn later when you have water in the boil. So one of them was perfectly okay because of the potato peel, the potato slice, but the other one, which I had skipped, had a little bit of water in it. So this is it has real power. You're just working with the elements contained in the foods. So understanding and knowing this helps you yourself create therapy within your kitchen, whether you are ill or you're not ill, or just maintaining your balance, or you're trying to bring back balance. These are the like an artist has a palette and creates different creations. This is what Ayurveda is. You play with the various forces embedded in food and herbs, and you can empower yourself and make changes within your own constitution. So the next taste is sour. Sour is made of earth and fire. So it is stimulating, carminative. That means it can dispel gas. It is nourishing. It has the properties to relieve thirst. It has because of the fire within it, it can promote circulation. So if you are feeling low or ill or faint, having a sour drink picks you up. And it strengthens the heart. It awakens the mind and senses. It increases acid and bile secretion, and it builds all tissues except the reproductive tissue. So again, you have to check, are you prone to secreting too much acid and bile? Then sour is not going to be okay for you, because the mostly pitta people are prone, because they're made of fire element. So they are prone to having an imbalance in pitta, which means too much fire. So being mindful of how much sour food they have will help them. But on the other hand, vatas and kaphas, they always are struggling with their digestive system. They usually have a little bit lower fire. And then sour food is like a catalyst, which helps them pick up their digestive fire, which again will help them digest the meal. And when the meal is properly digested, it is converted into good nutritive fluid, which is distributed to the whole body. But if you are not able to digest what you're eating, half of it will be digested, half of it will be converted into kind of a junk food, which is not usable by the body. So again, if depending on your constitution and what your status of your health is, this taste can either help you or aggravate you. So again, for vatas, it is very good. It relieves them. For kapha, it is good, but it also means that they can hold more water, just because it has a bit of the earth element. So it is good, It is good, better than sweet and salty, but it has an earth element, so they have to also ease off a little bit. And for the pittas, it is most aggravating. So again, too much sour food or sour experiences in your life, they create envy, resentment. You must have heard of the saying, uh, uh, the the sour grapes, you know. So the sour grapes means like there's resentment within you that you didn't get what someone else got. Maybe there's too much sourness inside your body and constitution. And again, once again, it's a spectrum. So your mind and emotions is not disconnected from your body. You might think, oh, I have a tendency to be jealous, or I have a tendency to be resentful. But if you recognize that, a little bit of change in the diet and some lifestyle practices can bring you back to balance and remove and start softening these feelings, you know. So this is actually a great way of changing the mind also, just by being mindful of what you are putting inside yourself, you know, in terms of food, in terms of sensory experiences, in terms of what kind of experiences you are seeking in life. And that awareness can help you choose. So this is only a game of are you aggravating yourself or are you pacifying yourself? This Ayurvedic game. Some great examples of sour food is fermented food, because fermentation is actually a process of changing the structure of the food. It makes it more sour and acidic. So fermented foods, acidic citrus or sour fruits, tomatoes, yogurt, alcoholic ferments, yogurt and milk. Although yogurt comes from milk, they have very different qualities, because yogurt is created by fermentation. So it becomes a little bit sour, and milk is sweet. So actually, dairy is a very powerful food. All the things that come out of dairy have very different abilities and qualities. So out of the dairy, you can have cheese, which is very hard and can aggravate the kapha. But you can have buttermilk, which would be very, very therapeutic for the kapha, you know. For vattas who need a lot of grounding and sweet taste and, you know, to be earthed, milk is great. Milk is really supportive. And milk is also cooling to the pitta. So actually in Ayurveda, milk is a superfood. And it has been extensively studied and analyzed, and its various parts have been microanalyzed, you know, and for each and every issue, there is a different suggestion given on what to do. The salty taste is made up of water and fire. It has the quality to soften, it is sedative, it is laxative. It is used mostly in small amounts. In small amounts, it stimulates the digestion. It is supportive of the start of the digestive process and to help the secretions. But in moderate amounts, it becomes a purgative, and in excess, it can make you vomit. So that's why it is just the amount matters a lot. So it can soften the hard phlegm which collects inside, you know, especially kaphas, or, you know, if you have too much amma, then it's helpful for softening. Even when you have a sore throat, you will do warm salt water gargles. It softens the phlegm, and also removes the toxic production and the bacteria with it out of the mouth, so that it has that power. It can soften heart tumors. It can calm the nerves and relieve anxiety. Because anxiety is mostly a ether and air issue. So anything that will make it denser is going to start relieving anxiety. Sometimes anxiety is also caused because you're feeling famished, or your blood sugar level is low. A drink is made usually out of water and salt and sugar, because they contain the most basic elements between salt, sugar, and they carry water, fire, and earth, extremely supportive. So they just kind of have the ability to revive you. Too much salt can damage the kidneys, create kidney stones, edema, hypertension, because salt can also hold the water in another area. So you have heard of osmosis. It can pull out water from a cell into the channel. So the quantity of salt is very important to see what level of what you aim to achieve through salt. Again, for vattas, it relieves it, but if it is too salty, it will draw the fluids out from the tissue, and their tissues have a tendency to be dryish because they are already always depleted in the water element. So you have to be mindful how much salt you need. For kaphas, they already have a lot of fluid in their channels. The channels are usually full, like bursting. So too much salt will hold the water there. And for pitta, it can be aggravating because of the fire element. And pittas also have a tendency to have high blood pressure. Kaphas also have a tendency. So salt is very critical in changing the volume of fluids in the channel. We have millions of microscopic channels, lymph channels, blood channels, excretory channels, all kinds of channels we have right through our body. Then you have too much salt induces greed. So this is again the water fire constitution, they tendency to hold, because when you have salty water, it can hold a lot of material within that environment. Again, speaking cognitively and emotionally, you can hold stuff. So reducing salt can actually make a difference to your emotions also. And the sources for salt is table salt, seaweed. All the stuff from the sea usually is living in a salty environment, so they are naturally rich in salt, whether it's seafood or seaweed or rock salt. These are all sources of salt. And whenever there is someone is feeling faint, or you go for IV fluids, you have the very basic composition is salt and sugar in a fluid held within water. And that kind of mimics the plasma. And the plasma has to be supported as a basic life force for any kind of, when you're feeling low or ill or depleted. So this is a very critical taste. But again, the quantity is very important. So coming to the next one is pungent. This is the hottest taste, made of air and fire. It is very light. Both the elements, air and fire, are very light. It has the power to stimulate, sedate. It is antispasmodic in small doses. It can improve the metabolism, and it promotes heat and digestion. Basically, it is like the Agni, it is like the fire. So anytime the Agni has to be adjusted, we work with pungent taste. And it has a pushing power. So it can reduce stagnation, it can open up blood clots, it can open the mind and senses and channels. So you have subtle herbs which can open that. So again, how do you reach your mind or senses if you're feeling foggy or confused or dull? There are herbal mixtures which you can do to kind of awaken your mind and senses. So this is like you can do breathing exercises, you can do just exercises, but to reach deep inside, this is the only way, one of the most penetrating ways to reach deep inside any part of your body. So that's why food and taste and herbs are the most important medicinal tools in Ayurveda. Very, very extensive, very deep, very extensive. And when they are combined, the synergy grows. So you could have a formula which is specially made to achieve a small purpose within the body, just by combining all the various micro the flavors and elements within that herb, you can achieve a purpose. And all these are natural things available through nature. For the vata, it is very good because vatas are usually cold, so it relieves them with their warmth. Pungent are heat producing. For kapha, again, it is a beautiful taste element, because they are cold, heavy and cold, but it pushes and invigorates the circulation and produces warmth. It can induce sweating. So again, this is an excellent herb to pair with other lifestyle therapies and to promote sweating if you need, or if you don't need to sweat so much like a vata, so then you just have a more gentle warmth. So this is the way to play around with these tastes. And for pitta, it is aggravating because again, pitta is like fire and pungent is like fire. So they're very similar. So too much pungent spices are not good for pitta. But on the other hand, there are a lot of spices which are supportive of the Agni and cooling at the same time. So this is the surprise or beauty of nature, that it can still support the Agni and be protective towards pitta for things like coriander or fennel or cumin. These are, they have a power to support the Agni, but at the same time, they're not as hot, or the hot punch is missing. So they're really supportive of the Pitta dosha. Again, fire translates into anger and hatred emotionally, cognitively. Anger is a outward explosive emotion. You cannot be angry if you don't have the fire or the need to act out or punch out or hit out. So if you are prone to these kind of emotions, then you need just the opposite. Like, for example, sweet is cooling. So you can, over time, even change the emotional and mental outlook of a person. So who would think that you can do psychology through food, but If you do 50% food therapy and 50% other therapy, it just cuts down so much on the burden of improving the mind on the mind itself. Again, too much pungent taste can damage and dry the lungs, because lungs is where the moisture is held the most. So where is it going to go and dry out stuff? Where there is maximum water. It can induce dry cough, because dryness in the throat means you will cough. There's lack of moisture. And the lung can bleed. So too much hot, spicy food, especially if you're a pitta, will not support you and can harm your organs. Some of the very typical pungent foods are ginger. Ginger is sattvic and tridoshik. And it's also a very gentle herb. It's not like chilies, which is very aggressive and can form inflammation wounds in the GI tract. Ginger is a far more gentle and supportive herb, pungent herb. Very helpful for colds, coughs, and all kinds of digestive issues. It's a really extensively used in the Ayurvedic kitchen. Pepper, more spices, aromatic plants, coffee, tea, they're all very stimulating. So that's why when you need a pick-me-up, people have coffee and tea. But again, too much coffee and tea can start also having a depleting and negative effect. So you have to play by the situation. Is it really just enough and the right thing to do at that moment, or is it like becoming an aggravation and an irritation to your body and constitution? Then you can make the changes. And the thing with Ayurveda is, it's not okay, you once had it, it's not a do or die situation. It is the long-term effect which has the power. If you keep on doing it over long periods of time, that's what affects your starts affecting your constitution, or starts making changes within it. So one-off is okay. In moderation, it's okay. But or your tone down is okay. So you can, it's not a do or die situation. But yes, if you know who you are, what you need, where you need to go, then this is helpful. And the last taste is water and earth. I mean, sweet. It is made up of water and earth, the most heaviest elements and the most body sustaining elements. Because actually, this is what is translated into your tissue. The others up till now, whether it was bitter or astringent or salty or pungent, they're just playing a role to switch the directions. But the body and mind is actually made up of water and earth element. So sweet is it is the foundation of our body. With it we build and strengthen the body tissues. It harmonizes the mind, it brings contentment. It is demulcent, that means it is moistening. And expectorant, it is a mild laxative, and it counters burning. So it is on the base of sweet that the other tastes are built on, depending on what is your constitution or prakriti, and how much is the imbalance or vikruti. Too much sweet can damage the spleen, it can damage the pancreas, it can create diabetes and hypoglycaemia. Now you'll notice that all these disorders are slowing and heavy kind of thing, because sweet is heavy. And all these disorders, whether it is damaging the spleen, that means they have become dysfunctional, they're not up to the mark, they're not able to produce the amount of activity they should to keep the organ in good form and shape. There is a kind of a breaking going on. And then you add the sweet to it, it's more, it's like a heaviness upon heaviness. So that's why you need to go to the other side, add dryness, or you have to add heat to pick up things. So vata is very soothing because they're made of very earth and ether and air. So it's very soothing to the vata. They need to always be grounded. They need to go to the heaviest elements. But because kaphas are made of earth and water, for them it is most aggravating. It is like more congestion, their chest will fill up and their mind will fog up and their bodies will gain weight. So how do the kaphas handle this? By being mindful of how much sweet taste is added to their food. Sweet means not like pastries or cakes. We're talking about grains, we're talking about rice, we're talking about meat, we're talking about legumes. This is what is the sweet taste provided by nature. For pitta, it is very soothing because sweet is a cooling element. And pitta is a fire element. So the sweet taste has the power to soothe down and cool down and reduce inflammation of the pitta constitution. And it also is it induces love and attachment, because water and earth are the supporters of life. What is support? Love, support, networking, receiving goods, where you feel supported. So food can do that. When kapha people, when you have an emotional eating disorder, you're trying to replace some hurt by emotional eating. It's another form of love, but it is aggravating to the body, So there are other ways in which we can handle this issue of emotional eating, by going through the constitution and seeing where and how you can change the diet to soothe overall the whole constitution. So examples of sweet is sweet fruit, dairy, sweet foods like mostly grains, all kinds of carbs, meats, legumes, oils, and like dates. These are all sweet foods. And avocado. Once again, sweet is the staff of life. And when you're depleted and nourished, or in a fainting mode, a glass of with a pinch of salt and sugar can really help you and pick you up. Because again, it is mimicking the plasma, and it is providing support to the depleted plasma, because of which you're feeling faint, or something must have happened to bring you to that state. So these are the 6 elements, and with the 6 elements, you work with your constitution and your vikruti and your imbalance, and you further fine tune it with the herbs, because you have the main food that you eat, but herbs are not food. It is super micro powered natural stuff which can penetrate somewhere deeper. And that's what Ayurveda does. It looks at your constitution, what should be your daily diet, and if you have a disorder, how do you bring it back? Of course, you change your diet, but if it is even still needs further further restructuring or further support, then you take the help of herbs to come back to a state of balance. So taste therapy.